And to continue, as I was saying, default files, you should know what that is. It's in your text also. Browser, you already know what those are. There's lots more browsers these days, other mobile browsers, screen readers for people with visual impairments, and so many other devices now. And the server, what's a server? The browser sends the information to and receives information from a server. A server is a computer, really just a computer, running specialized software that serves up web pages and resources, like, images and videos and audio and stuff like that too. So how does your browser know what server to go to get the web page that you want and so on? Well, it comes down to an IP address. An IP address, or Internet Protocol address. This is the way that every computer, and actually lots more than computers, any device connected to the Internet, is the way we keep track of it. It's a unique 12-digit identifier called an IP address. If you read about this in your text, and you should, you'll see that in the future we're going to move to a longer identifier because we're running out of IP addresses, which will contain even more digits and therefore will last even longer. We use domain names. In other words, if I want to go to SUNY Plattsburgh, I do what? www. That's not a domain name, but plattsburgh.edu is the domain name. We think of it as, oh, well, I'm going to go www.plattsburgh.edu. But what that really does is the server has to look up the IP address. It's kind of like a two-part process. Anyway, domain names. Why do you care? Well, that's really the way that we keep track of websites is domain names. How could you find out the domain name of a website? Well, you could go someplace like the Whois source, for instance. And I could say, eventually comes up. I could say, how about www.plattsburgh.edu? I want to know about that website. Like what its IP address is, and who owns it, and when was it registered, and how do I get a hold of them, and so many other things. By the way, here's 2 email addresses of administrators actually, who are listed as the contact people for this website. When was it created? Here's the date. Here's the IP address. It's hosted on a dedicated server. Where is it located? What is the website title? So on and so forth. Lots of administrative information about it. So if you want to know who owns a website and the IP address, which can tell you a lot, you can go to a Whois tool like this one and just put it in and take a look. So why do I care about that IP address again? Let's continue. Now let's look at, for instance, plattsburgh.edu. I know I could just go to plattsburgh.edu and what happens? It's plattsburgh.edu. It says so right up here. The URL is www.plattsburgh.edu. And this is the default page, so I don't need any indexed HTML or anything like that. Fine. But what if I know the IP address? The IP address of plattsburgh.edu, and you could have found it on the other site, is this whole bunch of numbers. 137, 142, 200, 200. I can actually use that as the link. And by the way, that is the true address which is the IP address of the Plattsburgh website, right there. So that's really what is being called up, an IP address, when you go to a website. And let's continue along and say I can do that with other websites, but I won't bother. You can go find out some more on your own and go to them either way. It is a lot easier to remember plattsburgh.edu than remember 137, 142, 200, 200. And that's why we have domain names that link to IP addresses, because we remember domain names that make sense, but IP addresses are what the computer wants to know. So I know this is a blurry graphic, but it reminds me to describe to you this two-part step. When you actually go put into your browser, into Chrome or whatever, plattsburgh.edu, www.plattsburgh.edu, your browser sends a message to a domain name server, DNS, domain name server. The domain name server says, oh, plattsburgh.edu, that equals these 12 digits. And then it sends that back to your computer. Then your computer says, okay, I have to go to that server, 137, and so on and so forth, those 12 digits. Then it sends a message out that says, okay, find me the server because I need the default home page. Then that server sends it back. So it's a two-part system. First, the domain name links to the IP address, comes back to your computer. Then from your computer goes out and finds the IP address. That server sends information back to your computer. Okay, that's the basic terms that you need to know.